So today let's take a look at even more 18650 lithium-ion batteries from eBay. Of course, eBay is full of completely obviously fake batteries with absolutely impossible capacities. For example, this one 6800 mAh, which is absolutely impossible in this size of this battery. It's about double of what you can fit in 18650 lithium-ion battery size. But those ones are like, they could be real. They are a bit more expensive and the capacities are possible. So let's take a look at those better looking batteries. No obvious fakes like this one. And here you can see the prices of the batteries including shipping from eBay. And this is one piece. If you take more pieces it can be cheaper, of course. And here you can see the summaries of what the listings say. This one looks completely believable. 2500 mAh is possible, 3.7 volts. It says Samsung, 25 amps discharge rate and 300 plus cycles. The other one is called LG. The capacity is 3000 mAh, which is still possible, but the listing is quite confusing. It says 3.7 volts nominal voltage, but it also says 3.6 volts in a different place. The charging voltage is 4.2 volts, that's fine, but it says 4 amps maximum charging current, but it also says 10 amps in a different place. And the discharge rate should be 25 amps down to 2.5 volts. It also says the weight of the battery, 800 cycles, but it also says from 10 to 30 amps in a different place, and in another place it also talks about 20 amps. Is this a charging current or a discharging current, and is it a continuous current or a peak current? Nobody knows. And the last one says 3400 mAh, which is almost the maximum capacity you can actually get in this size. I think the maximum nowadays is about 3500 mAh, 3.7 volts, the maximum charging voltage, minimum discharging voltage, and it also says 4.65 amps, but is it a maximum charging current or a maximum discharging current? Nobody knows. It says the weight of the battery and it calls it a button top, but I'm sure that this is a flat top, not a button top. One of those batteries came in this box. I forgot which one it was, unfortunately, and there is some warning. Do not load or transport package if damaged, and I'm sure this package is already damaged a little bit. So this one shouldn't have been loaded or transported. The other ones came in just a bag, and this one has a plastic box for it. Let's try to open it. And here is the battery. It says Samsung, the bottom of it and the top of it, a flat top. The brown one has just some mysterious numbers on it. Also a flat top and this bottom, and the last one has more text on it. Battery may explode or fire if mistreated. Do not disassemble or dispose of in fire. Do not charge except specified charging condition. Do not heat above 212 degrees Fahrenheit. I think it's 100 degrees Celsius. That's quite a lot. Or short circuit. Do not crash or modify. How do I modify a battery? And made in Japan, the bottom and the flat top, which is called a button top. Now let's try to weigh the batteries. The worst fakes are only about 24 grams and the actual capacity is like 500 mAh. This one is a slightly better fake, which is 36 grams. I have to measure the capacity later. It came with a flashlight I will be reviewing. The first one is 43 grams and the listing doesn't say anything about the weight. The other one should be 46 grams and actually is 44 grams, which is close, and the last one should be 48.5 and it's 43, which is kind of close, maybe. So those are the weights of the batteries, and now let's try to take a look at the listings to have some fun. So here is the listing of the first battery, and it kind of makes sense. There are no contradictions. Here is the size, voltage, capacity, flat top, dimensions, some type number, discharge rate, voltage, number of cycles, some peak current, and that's it. But the listing of the second battery is more interesting. The batteries can be 10 to 30 amps current work, special continued large current work products. Now we are selling the LGHG2 old models, some model number, the capacity, lowest capacity, rated voltage, charging voltage, discharge cutoff voltage, maximum charging voltage, but sustainable maximum charging current 4 amps, but sustainable end by charging current 10 amps. So which one is the charging current? It's a bit confusing. The maximum discharge current, sustainable, weight, some temperatures. Don't overcharge and overdischarge batteries and then stop charging. The battery is insufficient. Please recharge immediately, otherwise the lithium battery is easy to damage and even lead to scrap. Don't higher than 4.25 volts voltage. Every call waiting is equivalent to a single battery charge. Each charge it will shorten the life of A. Provide stable discharge voltage consistency is good. Life is long. Long time discharge, no memory effect. Can amount to 50 degrees Celsius. Temperature safety performance is high. No explosion, not burning, non-toxic, non-polluting. iShop also can be customized various belt protection circuit to prevent the battery cannot charge caused by the battery discharge damage. Prevent the battery caused by the charger voltage high combustion explosion. That's amazing. And other security issues. Allows you to use more secure. And the charging current is 4 amps but also 10 amps. The discharging current is 25 amps. But here it also talks about 10 to 30 amps, and the picture talks about 20 amps. So what should I make out of this? And the last listing is also a little bit confused. It shows button top batteries, but they ship flat top batteries. Ready for loading and unloading. Battery capacity is not less than 85% of rated capacity. They are covering their asses if the capacity is a bit lower. Use original program, intelligent protection circuit design. 15 kilograms explosion proof battery. What's this? Internal pressure valve automatically opens to prevent explosion. And the internal resistance is less than 20 watt. Milliohms maybe. The colors deviation might differ due to different monitor settings. Maximum download is 4.65 amps. That's also interesting. Now let's charge the batteries to be able to measure the capacity using my Pearl charger, this cheap power bank which also works as a charger, and this nice cable which remained from my power bank, which I disassembled in the last video. But wait, before charging them, let's check the initial voltage to see if they are shipped at the right voltage for storage. Because those batteries shouldn't be fully charged or fully discharged for storage. They should be about half the way. And this one is about right, maybe slightly higher than it should be. This one is slightly lower than it should be, and this one is actually very low. I think it should be about 3.82 volts for storage. This one is slightly above. This one is a bit below, and this one is just completely empty, which is quite bad for the storage. This one deteriorates quite fast, stored at this voltage. But now let's charge the batteries and test the capacity. It's charging now. So the battery is charged now, and let's try to discharge it. At half an amp down to 3 volts, as I always do it with 18650 lithium-ion batteries. And let's start the discharging. It's discharging now, and the capacity is counting up. And of course let's charge another, so it's prepared for the test. So the capacity of this battery came out as 1775 milliamp hours, which is not exactly 2500. That's a bit disappointing. Maybe let's try one more cycle. Now let's try to discharge this battery. And the second battery is 1700, which is quite far from 3000, isn't it? And here's my kid helping me, of course. Let's try one more cycle with this battery, and then let's test the last one. This one is charging quite slowly because it's very low. After a short while, the voltage went up and now it's charging fast. This battery comes out just slightly better in the second cycle. And the last battery, let's discharge it. And this one is supposed to be 3400 milliamp hours, but in reality, it's just slightly over half of it. And it's quite close to the other two batteries. So here you can see the results of the measurements, and I made 5 cycles with each battery to make sure that it doesn't change much with more cycles. As you can see, the results are quite disappointing, and the capacity fluctuates a little bit, but this is just random errors, or maybe when I leave the battery sitting after the charge for a longer time, the capacity comes out a little bit lower. When it's disconnected from the charger, the voltage goes a little bit down for some time and then it settles. And those results are quite disappointing because those batteries don't look like obvious fakes. But of course I can still use those batteries in my flashlights or power banks because the capacity is still kind of reasonable, and those are not the worst fakes, which are usually like 500 milliamp hours only. So the question is, what are those batteries? Are those some very cheaply produced batteries? Even though they are heavy, so they are not the worst fakes, but they can still be some cheaply produced batteries. They could also be some rejected batteries, some defective batteries rejected from some production, and they could also be used batteries taken from laptops or basically just collected from trash. Maybe some old batteries collected for recycling, but somebody just took them, rewrapped them and resold them. They can easily put a new heat shrink on an old battery, of course. Let's take a look if those have a double bottom, because if they are taken from some devices like laptops, they have marks from the spot welding, and those are often hidden by a double bottom, basically a ring of metal spot welded onto the original bottom of it to hide the spot welding marks. But this one looks like it doesn't have a double bottom. What about those ones? No double bottom, and the last one. Also no double bottom. Here you can see the detail of it. There is no added ring. So it doesn't seem to be taken from a device where the batteries are spot welded. It's also bad that this battery came at such a low voltage, because if the battery is stored at such a low voltage, it can lose its capacity and it can also develop a high self-discharge. But this one doesn't seem to have a high self-discharge. It holds the charge quite nicely. Sometimes when a lithium-ion battery has a high self-discharge, you can regenerate it by making several cycles, by charging it and discharging it several times. The high self-discharge is probably caused by some spike of metal growing through the separator, and if you make several cycles, the spike will somehow dissolve or something like this. But of course, if it's a very high self-discharge, the battery is more or less in a short circuit, and you can try to get rid of the short circuit by trying to charge it at a very high current, but Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If the battery is very low, like less than 2.8 volts or something like this, those chargers will not charge it at a full current, like 1 amp. They will charge it at a very low current, like 100 milliamps will regenerate it, but if the self-discharge is high, this small current can't charge it, so you have to connect it to a bench power supply for a short while, just maybe few seconds at a high current to raise the voltage above the level where those chargers charge it at a full current. Sometimes it's possible to regenerate a battery that was at 0 volts, but sometimes it's not. So this is Wild, and see you in my next videos, and thanks to all of my patrons on Patreon. I really appreciate your support. And of course I also plan to take a look at this power supply which was donated to me. It's a 5 volt 2 amps power supply which was donated to me some time ago, but I kind of managed to lose it. I put it somewhere and I forgot where did I put it, and I couldn't find it for some time, and I finally found it when I was looking for something completely different, just accidentally. So thank you, and I'm sorry for the delay. I'm a hoarder, so things get easily lost in my room, and I also plan to take a look at this flashlight, which also comes with a completely fake battery here, this adapter for 3 AAAs, and this dodgy charger. This charger is the main reason I chose this one, of course, and I also plan to take a look at this amazing solar charger. It's a USB charger with solar cells in it, so it requires no power. It's quite amazing. It opens like this, and you can see 4 solar cells in it and some inverter and a USB port. It was donated to me, so thank you, and I will definitely try to take a look at it soon.